Well, a warm welcome to all our campuses that are watching and listening today. We're so excited to have you there. Maybe you've come back, you were there for the first time at Easter services. I know there at Pitt Meadows, you had a lot of people for the first time. Congratulations on that. I hope you have an amazing service today. And then at Commercial, Strathcona, they have their own cheering squad. It goes with them wherever they go. There's a big wedding this weekend at Strathcona, life, a big party on Friday night at Commercial. So there is life going on at all our campuses. And if you happen to join us for the first time at one of our campuses, we are really glad you're here with us sharing your day. Today we're going to be looking at the book of Philippians. We are in a series on this amazing letter Paul writes from prison. To have a topic of joy when you're in jail is kind of unusual. But 16 times, Paul says either joy or rejoice. The letter has a lot to do about joy. And so today we're going to continue on in our series about joy. Finding Joy, Helping Others is the title for today. And just a quick review from some of the things we covered in the past. Maybe you missed the past lessons. You can get it on podcast or just go to the website, pick it up there. Download the app. You'll find it there as well. The notes are all there. We said that joy is based on Christ. Happiness is based on your circumstances. Circumstances, two words again, really. Circum and stance. Stance is where I'm standing. Circum is circle. What's around me? If my level of happiness is based on what's going on around me, in my little circle of life, I'm going to have a lot of emotional ups and downs. However, if my life is based on joy in Christ, then it's something different. There's a stability, there's a strength in my life because there's a supernatural joy. And what we've been doing through the last couple of months now is tapping into that joy, and we're going to continue this today as we go through it. Joy is inside, happiness is outside. Joy is found when you look at life from God's viewpoint. In the middle of life, when things go sideways and you have a lot of challenges and you're down here at about 100-foot level, the key to joy is to get up there at 30,000 feet and say, God, let me see it from your perspective, because he's got the big picture. And God will do that. He'll show you the big picture. And you go, okay, in the light of eternity, this really is not that big a deal. Why am I so upset? So that's one of the keys to joy. We talked about that. We talked about joy is found when you don't let others control your attitude. You have the thermostat to your joy level, to your attitude on the inside. Don't let somebody else set it for you. You set that, and you alone. And God will help you with that. Joy is found when you focus on your purpose, not your problems. You have a purpose, you have a design, focus on that. We're going to talk today about finding joy in helping others. According to BC Living, this is right off their website, volunteering is a great way to help others and yourself. Research has repeatedly shown that working in the service of others enhances physical, mental, and emotional well-being. People who routinely help others often experience a helper's high, an euphoric rush that releases endorphins, the body's natural painkillers. In addition to this feel-good rush, the health benefits of volunteering include a reduced risk of cardiovascular disease and diabetes, as well as lower cholesterol levels and improved immune functions. Mental function gets a boost from volunteering too. The brain needs exercise as much as the body, and performing acts of kindness and making new social connections help keep the mind stimulated. That's right out of BC Living. It could have come right out of Philippians chapter 2 about volunteering, serving, helping other people. It's a God idea, and it works really well. Okay, let's talk about this. Number one, God designed his house to be full of joy, and finding this joy means getting the focus off ourselves and onto others. What is the house? Well, first of all, Jesus said, I will build my church or my house on family principles. You know that God really wants his house or his church to be full of joy. I think when you come to church, you should find the most joyful place you've ever been in your life. Not like everybody got baptized in pickle juice. You know, it's like, oh, man, it's so tough being a Christian. Oh, how's your week? Oh, wow. And I said, wow, it's amazing. I have this amazing walk with God. I have a great life group. I'm involved in Alpha. There's a strength. There's a joy. It doesn't mean we don't have hard times or challenges, but his house is designed to be a house of joy. In Psalm 127, verse 1, it says, unless the Lord builds a house, they labor in vain who build it. Do you know that the Lord is a builder? He is an amazing architect. He'll build your family house. He'll build your life. He's a great builder, and he builds his church. You know what our role is? My role as a pastor, our role as a pastoral team, our role as a life group leaders and all the rest is to follow God's design to build an amazing church. I like that. God is a builder. Some of you have probably heard of a guy named Tim Allen. He's had this show called Tool Time. Anybody watch that show? That's a little bit dated now. But he's kind of, nobody knows he's a strong Christian, but he is. And he calls God his builder. I found this little clip of Tim Allen talking about that God's a builder. It's a good little clip. Let's watch this.
So why are so many of your cars in this collection old?
Because I'm old. Is that what you're trying to say? All right,
No.
This is done. I hate this sort of stuff. They lead you into this stuff. Why are all the cars old? Why do you have wrinkles under your eyes? That's what's next.
I didn't ask
Why
that.
do you seem to walk slower? Because I'm old.
But don't let the antics
I had to get this
fool
part
you.
in there,
Alan
you know.
is a thinking man's clown. He'd rather discuss quantum physics than box office numbers,
Whether you're a true believer or a pagan,
and he spends a lot of time working on that curious relationship with God, or, as he says, the builder.
Oh my God.
honey, don't say God in church. I always do ask, whoever put me here, the builder, what did you want me to do?
Do you think people would be surprised to know how deeply religious or spiritual you are?
Well, if you know me, you know it. I don't push it. I just want a relationship with whoever built me. This is too much, too weird that it happened by accident. It didn't happen by accident. I don't feel it did.
Isn't that good? God's a builder, and he has this amazing design work. Now, if we follow his principles, go to his schemes, his drawings, build our life, build our church on that, one of the results is incredible joy. Next door is Shangri-La, 60-some stories. The architect, James Chang, amazing architect. He's the builder of that. It's a great building. Go across the street this direction, what do we have? The Trump Tower. The architect, Arthur Erickson, one of the best architects in our city. We could say, that is the house that Arthur Erickson built. This direction, that's the house that James Chang built. But this, our church, we want this to be, this is the house that God builds. This is his house. We want him to build it. So that means, just like when they built the Trump Tower or they built the Shangri-La, they submit themselves to the blueprints that those architects submit. And if we want to have incredible joy, the love of God flowing, and this amazing church or house, then we have to submit to the architectural plans. Say, God, let's do it your ways. He is a builder. Now, let me tell you 3 ways God builds. It's not in your notes, but you can write this down on your notes if you like. 1, God builds relationally. He said in Matthew 16:18 to Peter, now I say this to you, Peter, which means rock. Upon this rock I will build my church. What was the rock? Was it literally on Peter? The gates of hell shall not prevail against it. What he was saying was on what you just said, on your revelation, Peter. Peter had a revelation. Because Jesus said to them, when they're at Caesarea Philippi, which is a very pagan place, he said to them, who do men say that I am? And Peter, one of his brighter moments of his career, he said, you are Jesus, the Christ, the Son of the living God. That's who you are. And Jesus said, Peter, flesh and blood didn't reveal this to you. The Father revealed this to you. Well, the Father revealed it to Peter. That means Peter must have been spending time praying and studying because God revealed it to him. How does God build his church? By revelation. Another way that God builds his church is through generations. It says that it was the house of David. It was the house of Joseph. God builds his church by having sons and daughters in the house. If you go to our different campuses, if you go to this campus here, if you look around, you'll see spiritual sons and daughters. You know, every church is just one generation away from no longer being a church. We have a saying at Coastal, we need to aim lower, look for the next generation. God builds by revelation, but he also builds by generation, and then God very much builds through relations. And that's what we want to talk about today. How do we build through relations? Because if we want to have this joy in the house, there has to be these relationships which are really important. God has given, number 2 in your notes, God has given everyone a spiritual gift to help others in the house. Everyone's been given a spiritual gift. If you haven't yet gone to the Connect course and done, that starts up, you can be part of that this weekend. Go to the Connect course, because in the Connect course we talk about what are your spiritual gifts that have been given to you. Folks, this is a really, really good deal because it's given to you. Unlike getting a Tesla car, you do not have to line up and wait and give a $1,000 deposit for a car that's not even yet made, and maybe you won't even get it. There was 198,000 people lined up for a Tesla car this week. And I've got something to offer you, or I don't. God does far better than that, and that is a spiritual gift. Wow. And he distributes spiritual gifts to you. How cool is that? So I'd like to know what mine is. I'm glad you asked. Come to the Connect course. We got something for you. It'll help you. Get on the H&L team, and Adam and team will put you to work. Yes, in a good way. You get to help. That's so much fun. Endorphins will be released as you serve. In 1 Corinthians chapter 12, it says there are different kinds of spiritual gifts. We don't all get the same kind. Aren't you glad about that? Wouldn't it be boring if everybody had the same spiritual gift? You know, Allie's a great worship leader. She has a spiritual gift. But wouldn't it be boring if everybody had that same spiritual gift? You know, it'd be like watching a hockey game and everybody on the hockey team was a goalie. No, when you make your hockey team, you get different gifts to make a good hockey team, right? You have 6 players on the ice, 3 forwards, a center, right winger, and a left winger. You have a defenseman, left and right, and you have a goaltender. On that team, you have a coach and an assistant coach. You have a manager, you have a trainer. You have an equipment manager. You have staff behind the scenes. And all these people come together, and then you have a team. Some are more visible, the people on the ice. But I mean, you know, there's more involved to have a great team. And some members in the church are more visible than others, but you need everybody to have a great team. And Paul said, you know, here in Corinthians, he said, there are different kinds of spiritual gifts, but the same Spirit is the source of them all. We get it from the same place. Different kinds of services, but we serve the same Lord. God works in different ways, but it's the same God who does the work in all of us. Now look at the last part of this verse. A spiritual gift is given to each one of us, so what? So we can help each other. Why does someone have a musical gift? To help someone else. Why does that? And Paul in other places lists these gifts. What are they there for? To help each other. Let's read this out loud together in all our campuses. A spiritual gift is given to each of us so we can help each other. Not so we say, oh, look at my good gift. Woo, you like my gift? No, that's not what it's given for. It's given so we can help others. Paul said some have a gift of prophecy. Good gift. Some have a gift of hospitality. Good gift. Some have a gift of music. Some have a gift of giving. We need that gift. That's a gift of generosity. Hey, commercial campus right now, we're having to do some work on the building envelope, and some water got in. So, you know, it's going to be, $60,000, $70,000 to fix it. This is a time where the person with the gift of giving says, I got that. That's for my gift. That's where I come in. And that's their gifting. People step up. They want to do that kind of stuff. Just like the person who leads music says, hey, I love playing guitar. I'll step into that gifting. Or some with hospitality. We had the ladies' life group brunch on Saturday. And there were ladies that had the gift of hospitality, stepping forward, saying, I can help, I can serve. You need all these different giftings. Paul listed them. I've just touched on a few of them today. There's gifts that we need. So, again, point number 2, God has given everyone a spiritual gift to help others in the house. And then number 3, we're to serve others in the house like a son with his father, not a hired man. Look at this verse, Philippians chapter 2, verse 22. Paul talking about Timothy. He sent Timothy back to them. Timothy was there in Rome with him. The letter starts off with from Paul and Timothy. Timothy was a spiritual son to Paul. And here's what Paul has to say about it. It's a great statement. But you know his proven character, that as a son with his father, he served me in the gospel. What's the difference between serving as a son and just serving? There's a world of difference. There's a big world of difference. It came to light to me when I was a teenager. I worked on the farm, grew up on the farm. My dad owned a farm. And we would get up. This was a summertime. It was haying season. And we would get an early knock on our bedroom door. And all I'd hear was boys. That's it, boys. And boys meant it was time to get up. I didn't want to get up. My flesh didn't want to get up. The sun was just getting up. And I didn't want to get up because I knew what it meant. It meant go milk some cows, go do some chores before you got breakfast. That was the deal. Yeah, and it was a good breakfast. It was a great breakfast. Unlike the breakfast they had at the ladies' event, and not just saying, it's a little bit different. Yeah, that's what I grew up on, you see, so I have to get that out there, you know. It was fresh baked bread. It was, anyhow, I got to stop because it was potatoes and eggs and bacon, and, you know, you had to have enough to fill your tank for the rest of the day. There was no kale, no almond milk. we had a prairie farm breakfast. Okay, enough of that. Anyhow, so we get up and we do chores, and then after that, it was haying season. We were about haying. So at the end of the day, before we did the evening chores, Kyle's got to be milked twice a day, like it or not. Before we did the evening chores, I was sitting outside the step of the house, and my dad went to pay the hired hand for the day's work, for the week's work. And I'm sitting there, and I'm watching how much money my dad's giving the hired hand. And I'm thinking, man alive. Stop, Dad, stop. No, don't give him any more. What about me? And so he paid him. I didn't say anything. I just watched him dish out a bunch of $20 bills to him, and he went down the road. And then I had to do chores after that. He got to go home. And so I'm a little bit ticked. So I said to Dad when we were by ourselves, I said, Dad, you know, I got a problem. And he said, well, what's the problem, son? I saw how much you paid the hired hand. He goes, yeah, a man's worthy of his hire. I paid him what he's worth. I said, well, I have been working more hours than he's been working. He's not here to milk the cows in the morning. He leaves before we milk the cows at night. And I know what you pay me for the summer. And it's not as much as you paid him. And then my dad told me something that I'll never forget. He said, son, it's not his farm. It's your farm. And something dropped into my heart that it was mine. It wasn't his, but it was mine. And see, I took different care of the farm because it was our farm. It was my daddy's farm. It was the family's farm. Hired hand, he didn't care about the tractor the way we cared about it. He didn't care about the animals the way we cared about it. If the haystack fell over, he was gone. That was fine. He got his money. He was gone. But I knew who'd have to put the haystack up if it wasn't built right. And Paul is saying here about Timothy, Timothy served as a son serves his father. You know, if we're volunteering, if we're helping, this is one of the biggest keys to having joy. If you're serving just to get your paycheck or just to show up and say, I did that, you're not going to tap into this joy. But if you say it, man, this is the house of God. This is his family, and I'm going to serve it as a son serves his father. You have just dialed into the sweet spot of joy. Amen. That's good preaching, Dave. That'll help somebody somewhere. I'm just saying. All right. I got a couple points I'm going to blaze through, and some of these I got from a great pastor named Larry Stockstill at a conference we went to in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. And he got it from a pastor in Florida by the name of Donald McTheny, who got it from a pastor in Africa, and I don't know where that pastor got it from. So I just took some points from that, and so I want to give credit where credit's due. Number one, Paul teaches here out of Philippians 2, 19 to 30, that if we want to serve as a son, there's some things we have to do. Number one, we have to be like-minded. Paul said in Philippians 2, verse 20, "For I have no one like-minded." He said Timothy was like-minded. The people that have caught that are rare. But that's the culture we want to have at Coastal Church, that we are like-minded. Going back to what he said in Philippians 2, verse 2 earlier, "Fulfill my joy by being like-minded." It's a choice to be like-minded. Having the same love, being of one accord, of one mind. To choose to be like-minded. Because you see what happens, we live in a society where it's very much about me. We had a little video we used to show in the Connect course called Me Church. It's all about me. We live in a disposable society driven by consumerism, and we kind of treat church like we treat our favorite restaurants at our favorite stores. Don't do that. A store and a restaurant is not a church. Church is family. Jesus said, "I will build my church, I'll build my family." In the Greek, it's the word, when he talks about house, building your house upon the rock, it's this word oikos. It's this family unit that's knit together. And many Christians don't enjoy the richness of the family because they treat churches like, well, I can shop here today, I can shop over there tomorrow. Somebody steps on my toes. Oh, they didn't preach my pet doctrine, so I'm going to find another church that preaches my pet doctrine. And it's like, how come I have no joy in my Christian life? Because you're not like-minded. Be like-minded. Get on the same page. It's not about you. It's about serving others. But I'm used to going to the restaurant and demanding my rights. That was a message a couple weeks ago. Jesus had the same attitude as Jesus, Paul said. What was his attitude? He didn't cling to his rights. He set down all his rights to come be one of us and serve us. And Paul says, if we want to have great joy in the house, you can't cling to your rights. Be like-minded. What is the vision of the house? If you have your own vision, then you have division. And where you have division, things go sideways. You say, what is the vision? Let's get on the vision. Let's run with the vision. And Paul said, be like-minded. And then it says, have the same love. That's an interesting verse. Having the same love. Being of one accord, of one mind. Same love just means we love people the same. That's what it means in the Greek, the Hebrew, and the English, and the French, and whatever language you want. It just means we love people the same. If they're older, we love them the same. If they're younger, we love them the same. If they're kids in the nursery, we love them the same. If they're a different nationality, we love them the same. Wouldn't you agree, church, that when we come together, we should find a place that people are loved the same? We're just loved the same. I want to go to a place like that. I'm loved the same, whether I'm older or younger, whether I'm different ethnic group, whatever the issue is, I'm loved the same. This is why Paul said, if we do this, you just tapped into that joy. Joy in the house. Be of one mind. So, again, how do we become like a son serving with his father? Be like-minded. The next point is genuinely care about the welfare of others in the house. And you can read Philippians 19 to 30. Paul just is really listing these points in Philippians 19 to 30. He says, I have no one else like Timothy who genuinely cares about your welfare. All the others care only for themselves and not for what matters to Jesus Christ. We're to serve out of a devotion to Christ, not out of an obligation. It's a devotion to Him. That's why we're serving. That's why I want to be part of it. That's what motivates me to help others is I know that I'm serving Christ and serving other people. I genuinely care about the welfare of others in the house. And then thirdly here, point C, is I serve with proven character. That's what it means to serve as a son, with proven character. He said of Timothy, but you know his proven character. We serve to get things right, not to be right. Let me say it again. We serve to get things right, not to be right. We want to be privilege-oriented, not rights-oriented. It's a privilege to serve. It's a privilege to be given a spiritual gift and said, go and serve with it and enjoy. God doesn't give us spiritual gifts so that, okay, I've given them all some spiritual gifts, now I'm going to get a lot of work out of them. That's not the way God does this. God says, I'm going to give them spiritual gifts, and then they're going to go use them, and they're going to feel so fulfilled because they're using my gifts with others in a community. I just want them to be so incredibly full of joy. And I know one of the keys to that is to give them some God-given grace abilities, and then as they use that, they're going to have incredible joy in their community. That's the heart of the Father for His house. He just wants this amazing place of joy and fulfillment. And again, I just hear the question out there today, well, what's my spiritual gift? Again, come to the Connect course. We'll help you with that one. Have you caught on that I'm plugging that? All right. Number D, honor those who lead the house. Paul had said, you honored me. You came to Rome. Epaphroditus was there. He ministered to me. Then he says of Epaphroditus and others, he said, welcome him in the Lord's love with great joy. Give him the honor that people like him deserve. Honor them. You know, a hired hand, and I experienced this when we had hired hands on the farm. My dad would say to do something. He said, this is the way I want, for example, the haystack. This is the way the haystack's built. What often happened with a hired hand is they'd second guess my dad. They'd say, well, I think we should do it this way or that way. And then typically it was to cut corners to do less work. And in the back of my mind, even as a teenager, I'm thinking, no, we do it the way Dad says to have it done because he knows how it plays out throughout the winter and how we feed off that haystack. No, we got to do it the way Dad says. But a hired hand mentality is to second guess and undermine the leadership. So Paul says, honor these people that I'm sending to you. That's really important for joy to be in the house. Then point number E, take risks for the house. He talks about how Epaphroditus risked his life for the work of Christ, and he was at the point of death while doing for me what you couldn't have done so far away. So he's talking about Epaphroditus. Anybody named Epaphroditus today here? All right. Anybody named their child Epaphroditus? No Epaphroditus. You may want to think about it. You know what it means? It means lovely, handsome, and charming. So, I don't know what his nickname would be, Epi or something like that, Peppy, I don't know. But Epaphroditus may just make the name list next year. Lovely, handsome, and charming Epaphroditus. He took risks for the house. Maybe even too much of a risk, we don't know. But traveling in those days was challenging. It was a 6-week journey from Philippi to Rome. And he wouldn't have all the creature comforts or the medicine we'd be able to have today. And it was a big strain on him, but he went because he just said, no, I'm going to do it for the house. I'm going to do it for this. I'm all in, and I'm going to take a risk for it. So when Paul says to serve this way, he knows what it means, and he's encouraging them. See, it's in this environment, it's in this culture where you have great joy. And it's the chemistry is such that you want to. He really lays it out, just like if you're baking a cake. If you want the cake to work, here's what needs to go into it. Now you can contextualize this also for your family. You could take this same message and contextualize it for your workplace. Because in your workplace, who do you want to promote? You want to promote somebody who serves you like a son. That's who you'll promote. There's people that have more skills, more degrees, maybe even more experience on their resume. But who do you want to put in charge? The one who serves you like a son. And that's exactly why the last point, Paul says, I send you Timothy. Some people are saying, well, why don't I get picked? Why don't I get a promotion? Why don't I get sent? The key is right there. Serve the way a son would serve his father in your workplace, in your church, in your family, and just watch the joy that comes into your life. You become very attractive, very hireable, very desirable, and the person that someone would want to send for the next assignment. God is at work in all our lives. I'm going to invite our campus pastors to come on up, and you're going to share a few closing thoughts with your campus there. And as you're coming up to share those thoughts with them, just to, again, encourage them to put this lordship of Christ, number one, in your life. He is the ultimate source of our joy. And they're going to come share a couple more thoughts with you on that. As we wrap up here tonight, I want to encourage you, maybe you've never experienced the joy of the Lord in any measure. The work begins. It's always a work in progress, for sure. But there's a starting point where we open up our heart and we invite the Lord into our life. In just a moment, you're going to hear some great testimonies. But before they come, I'd like to pray with you. And if you could bow your heads, please, we'll say a simple prayer. You may be here tonight and you've never experienced God's love. You've never asked Him into your life. Today's the day for you. Absolutely. And you'll always have some questions. You'll always feel like, I could do more. But today's the day to open up your heart and just say, God, I want to have you in my life. And I invite you to pray with me a simple prayer. Let's pray together. Dear Heavenly Father, this Saturday night, I open up my heart. I ask you to come into my life. I accept what Jesus did when He died and rose again, that I could have life. Today I receive that life. Amen.